the rats can play. Yeah. I'm not doing this alone. As you can see, I'm doing it with Justine Wanda, an accomplished stand-up comedian.
Accomplished, you guys.
Funniest woman on the planet, and also the most informed person you'll probably ever meet. But before we go on the show, African Censored seems to be the gift that keeps on giving. Sindio?
Kabisa.
Last week we had the awards. Tunukiwa zawadi kadha wa kadha na the Media Council of Kenya. But today we are the ones giving, and we're giving you two documentaries. First of all, The Vanishing Kids of Mukuru, which is frankly very, very troubling and heartbreaking story. Right, Justine?
Yes.
And the story was done by Calvin Rock. You can watch the trailer now, but it's about the problem of kids vanishing in Mukuru kwa Njenga, one of the biggest slums in Nairobi. Yeah, here's the trailer.
Na familia kwa nyumba hakuna raha. Mnaweza kuwa raha aje mkiingia na yule mtoto anakuanga na space yake ya kuparticipate, na hiyo space yake ya kuparticipate hakuna.
Chantal ndio aliweza kupotea na alipotelea tu hapa kwa hii mlango akicheza hapa na mwenzake. Aliitwa na mama.
Good Samaritan hapa ameniambia kuja tuende nikupae yako. Wajie hiyo. Mtoto anasakata.
Lakini hiyo masaa ya saa 11, saa 12 kuangalia watoto wengine wanarudi, yeye hakuonekana.
You have punishments for the offense of trafficking that prescribe a jail term. But then they also give the option to pay a fine. When someone has that much money available, paying a fine is not a problem.
Sio ni mada kesi. Yaani ukichua mtoto yangu uende naye hiyo muda yote. Si ni sawa nakuwa.
That's the first gift. The second one is a documentary that was filmed by award-winning journalist and also African Censored reporter Cynthia Gishiri. It's called App Trapped. It's a story about the predatory digital lending apps that we know of here in Kenya. You know them. I don't want to get into trouble with the courts here. But it's how these apps sadly are cashing in on the predatory apps. They're cashing in on the money problems that a lot of Kenyans have. And you might have borrowed a loan. I know I have in the past. When you're on the wall, when you're against the wall, and
so hard. Yeah.
And you'll take money at whatever interest, right?
Yeah. I'm trying not to say anything because I might need to borrow a loan after this.
Hopefully not, but here's a trailer for Uptrap by Cynthia Gishiri.
Back then, lending was very strict. With time, we have seen access to credit made easy.
Professor is the way to go, guys.
Zenka Loan App.
Technology has brought us money close to us.
Juu ni easy to access, haihitaji guarantor.
Zile terms zinakuja ni pages mingi. Utascroll tu mbio, uklik agree and continue.
Unapewa wiki 2 ya kurudisha au kuongeza muda.
After 5 second message nyingine, after 10 minutes zilikuwa zinafanya mtu anakuwa uncomfortable.
Sasa hiyo unapigiwa hata unaweza receive. Nataka nikuweke mahali hata uwezi chukua simu ina hangi ilipuke.
Sasa umejua ukiwa na mtandio wakati ule walikuona umejivaa tu kawaida, ukiwa na mtandao huwezi jua ni wewe.
Yep, go stream those 2 documentaries tonight if you can. If you can't, just paste them between Leo and Kesho and you'll be caught up with African Censored products. Now, to the big picture, Justine. Yes. Just another week in Kenya. Crazy things keep happening in Kenya. Another day, another crisis.
Yeah, shout out to Thames. Crazy things are happening.
And shout out to Charisma.
Yes.
Another day, another crisis, right?
Yes.
I just wanted you to know I said that, Justine.
So proud of you.
But we have a lot of things to speak about. One of them is Boniface Mwangi and Agather Atuhaire's arrest. No, abduction in Tanzania. It's not an arrest because they were never presented in court. Those two, they've gladly, at this point, we can breathe out a sigh of relief that they've been released. But a lot of a lot of circumstances surrounding the arrests and the torture they underwent during the arrests are troubling. Now, that's one of our topics. The other one is Chan stadiums, which never seem to be ready.
Oh, those ones are never going to be ready. I have zero faith in this government. Zero. And even zero is like a nice estimate. I think it's a negative at this point, because they're the ones who said, we're going to build these stadiums, and then delivered on nothing. So it's very difficult to believe them on anything.
Like they put in the bid. They put in the bid.
Yes. Kerere, like they actually went on to do this. They promised that they were going to do this. They were very excited. And this was when I think Murko 7 was the... Oh, Murko, man, that's his name. He was the sports CS, and he was very excited. They said they're gonna be done with the stadiums, I think, in 2 weeks. That was then.
That's what he said.
Yes. At some point, before he was reshuffled into another ministry. Yes, that was his promise. So the breakdown in delivery is something that Kenyans trusted would happen. I don't know why other African countries and CAF didn't believe us. Even the CAF chairman, I don't know if you remember.
They trust President Ruto, and then the journalists started laughing.
Oh, that was so cute from you. Like I know he's your bro or whatever, but you shouldn't have. You should have listened to us.
In Kenya, you're just constantly insecure.
Yes,
it's just what happens in this country.
Absolutely.
Can't trust the government.
Can't.
But before we get into that topic, the troubling situation in East Africa. Sindio, Boniface Mwangi and Agatha were arrested. At this time last week, I think we had Ian Mutiso in the studio, and both of those two, no one knew where they were. And then a few days later, Boni is what should I say, dumped at the border of Kenya and Tanzania, and he's found and he has torture marks on him. To me, when I saw the clip of him limping, just struggling to walk, it felt, for some reason, it didn't feel, should I say, astonishing? It wasn't astonishing to me. I wasn't taken aback by that. That's a problem. That's because we've seen it repeatedly. He's undergone the same thing here in Kenya. I think there's a court case going on right now where he was assaulted by a police officer. Yes. You've seen that, right?
And the magistrate was like, the police are trained to kill people, not animals. Like a magistrate making a joke like that and people in court laughing almost passively at the possible torture and death of not just Boni but themselves. It's very jarring. I think the thing that really breaks my brain is how we also participate in encouraging these sorts of behavior. I think at that moment in time, everyone should have just stood up and left or like said something to the magistrate. I know it's contempt of court, but we can't allow such statements to be made so loosely.
Yes. Yeah. True. And people laughed, and Boni gave a very nervous laugh. Yes. And he looked over to his kids when they, because the person made allusion to Boni's kids being present in the room. And in his statements, he said, you need to go home. I think he said something in the effect of, you need to go home to your family. Kenya isn't, to paraphrase, worth dying for. And the statement, you put it so nicely, he didn't say animals. These police officers aren't trained to kill dogs.
Dogs, yes.
They're trained to kill humans. And a magistrate saying that it just reminds me of some of the exceptionalism that we see a lot of politicians having. It's not me, it's you guys. You guys are the ones going through it, so I won't, it's your problem. So when he gets into his government-issued Prado, no police officer is going to come for him, but he does forget in that moment that when he walks out of that place, finally, and he's a civilian, his children, his children's children will still be Kenyans. Yes. And the same system that he's advocating for, that is very much protecting right now, will come for his kids.
Absolutely.
It's the same thing that MPs have.
I think one of the things that gets lost a lot in the conversation of abuse of human rights, torturing people, completely dismissing the humanity of every single Kenyan because of class, because of stature. It's that if it came for me and I'm a nobody, it will come for you because you're somebody who's threatening an even larger more heinous system. It doesn't exclude, and these people become braver. When you give them an inch, they'll take a mile because they know you're not going to do anything.
Yes.
And there's this MP, I think it's the Juja MP, who was abducted and then he was dumped in Jacaranda. I think he was found today, if I'm not wrong. And there's a lot of people who are either in government or are MCAs or are in some kind of elective post. They were just freely posting on Twitter, oh, this person was arrested. I'm like, what kinds of arrests are the police doing? And the DCI was like, nah, we would never take anyone. And
the
I'm
DCI
like,
issued a statement on it?
Yes, and I'm like, why are you saying it's not you guys? No one has even accused you. You know, like, you shouldn't be quick to jump to defense considering no one has accused you yet. That doesn't paint a really good picture on what the security situation is in the country, what it means to be safe with positions of authority, and just the general feeling of what are Kenyans supposed to do or who are Kenyans supposed to trust. Even at this point, the national anthem says Haki Iwe Ngao na Mlinzi. I think those things have been banned. Like, we don't even know where the haki is, if the ngao still exists.
Never lost the conversation, right?
It's like utumishi wa abductions kwa wote. That's like all we have
Everyone
going
gets
on
abducted.
right now.
You all get abducted. And the MP you're speaking about is George Koimburi, Juja MP, who was found in a coffee farm a day after he was abducted yesterday. And the description that was given was that he was found, he was held inside a Subaru.
Ugh, that's not a good sign.
And they just find it hard to change the vehicles. I don't know. It's like basic power.
Like rebrand.
They'll teach you that in Power Season 1 to always use different vehicles, but it's like they don't get it. But anyway, it's that MPs forget that these things can be done to them. The same people that you're speaking of that go on Twitter to say that it was just an arrest. It isn't. And if it's going to be an arrest, it has to follow the right procedure. I don't even know what the protocol of arrests is in this country. We saw it with the 4 filmmakers. They were just removed from their offices. They were forced to sign statements that they had not read. There was no lawyer present. So how are you supposed to trust the arrest procedure in this country if they can just do anything or whatever in the moment that they do it, and after you're supposed to fight for due process after the fact? It feels very backwards. It feels very dismissive of Kenyans' rights, and at its core, it's kind of it's a shattering of what people should understand their rights to be. It's like, no, you can just be arrested, or you can just get shot, or you can just be dumped in a coffee plantation, or we can just take your kids and there's nothing, we're going to just yank you off your own car. We've seen so many different variations of abuse of the law, and it's coming from people in authority. And there's so many things to be said about this, but honestly, how are we supposed to feel safe when the person who's renovating State House is busy telling us that, oh, we've disbanded the people who are abducting people? That's an admission. After denying that thing even exists in the first place. The moment they were happening, you kept saying police officers are not doing this. Then months later, I've disbanded that unit. You guys are cool. You're safe.
And they were disbanded to where? Where those guys? We need to actually have some kind of accountability that just doesn't stop with like someone's word. His word is not even bond.
Find them, charge them. Put them in court.
Exactly.
And the same thing happened to the unit that existed during Uhuru Kenyatta's time. Was it called SPU or SDU? There was a unit that was dumping people in Rivayala.
Yes.
That unit was supposedly, quote unquote, disbanded as well. The people behind that unit, the people who ordered these arrests, one of them is seeking to become president. And we'll end up in the ballot box on that day.
We are not safe.
Yeah.
This should worry you constantly. You should just wake up in a cold sweat every day wondering if you're getting abducted or not. Yeah.
But if we were just speaking about this just before we went on, well, these things are happening. we were doing some research and we realized that there are a lot of similarities between what's happening in Kenya, what's happening in Tanzania, and what's happening in Uganda.
Yes. It's an East African community of abductions.
Jumuiya ya utekaji nyara.
Yes.
So there is abductions in Kenya, there are abductions in Tanzania, and there are abductions in TZ.
Yeah.
And then there are killings in Kenya, killings in Tanzania, killings in Uganda. And then disrupting peaceful protests in Uganda, Tanzania, and Kenya is the same process. And also weaponizing the system and parliaments and constitutions against the same people who it's meant to protect.
Yes.
So could you break that down for us, the similarities between Jumuiya and mauaji?
I think our triangle of sadness so far is, I'll give an example of Uganda has the NGO law, where NGOs kind of have to be registered by the government itself. So every single detail about how the NGO operates is controlled by the government. Yes. And I'm pretty sure this affects a lot of civic spaces. Who is making space for civic engagement to happen? And then in Kenya, we have the County Civic Education Bill that is at the committee stage currently. And this particular bill is very focused on registering civil society groups, NGOs, all these different entities that help Kenyans have the difficult conversations where we've seen instances of complete dismissal, I'll say, especially with public participation on a lot of these bills. There's the technical committee on femicide and gender-based violence that's currently ongoing. So there's a public participation that's happening in different counties. What happened last week, this was documented by XYZ. I think in Turkana, if I'm not wrong.
XYZ, the satirical show?
Yes, the satirical show. Shout out to XYZ. So they were in Turkana, I think, with Forum Civ and a bunch of other civil society groups. And what ended up happening was, first of all, they came late. The entire public participation process started really late. They took a lot of time doing intros. Bro, there's a name tag there. Who even needs to know where you come from? And you have to remember, all these people were appointed by that person renovating State House again. So if you are appointed into something this sensitive, this technical, why are you spending so much time on your intros? And then they spent a lot of time on other formalities and like meeting readings and, you know, like the things, the bureaucracy of it all, where by the time it boils down to the actual issues that a lot of...
3 hours in.
Yes, 3 hours are already gone. So they had, I think, an hour left for the actual discussion. And people were very interested in giving their takes of why femicide is a problem in their communities, why communities are in crisis. And it just so happens that a lot of people in Turkana do not speak Kiswahili. There was no translator.
That was not taken into account before?
Not at all. So it's like you're spending so much time trying to articulate very impactful issues. But there was a lady there, I'm forgetting her name, I'm so sorry. She stood up and helped translate for both the people and the people in the committee. And the people in the committee who were supposed to help with this public participation process, when the constituents were sharing, a lot of them were on their phones. The entire time, the entire hour. And they kept telling them, we don't have time for this. It was very dismissive. So imagine if this is the kind of public participation on sensitive issues such as femicide and GBV.
It should be a bipartisan issue. It should be very non-political.
Yes, it should be very non-political. So the structure of public participation in this country is a sham. Because then you can mirror that with what Bunge la Mayut were doing a couple of weeks ago.
During the Constitution Amendment.
Yes, the Constitution.
CDF and the Senate Fund.
Yes. So they went to a couple of different places around the county, around Nairobi County, to see what the public participation was like. Some places were closed. Some places, it was like there was a cop there trying to see who they can abduct, allegedly. Like it just felt very tense and very unsafe. And the places where they were able to actually help people contribute, they had to do it in a hurry because it didn't feel safe. So when it comes to civic engagement and public participation, if that's the feeling on very pertinent issues, how are we supposed to move forward as a country? How is the voice of the people being centered in these rooms where they're completely invisible, removed, but they're also the first ones affected?
They should be involved 100%.
Yes.
And I'm just looking at the laws surrounding public participation according to the Constitution. It says here that it's meant to create awareness, placing adverts in mainstream media. To be fair, they did that.
Yes.
The follow-up is where the problem is. Involvement. Identify the key stakeholders or interested groups, including those directly affected and those that can offer solutions. Those, to quote some who are online, say that the inputs are not taken into account. Then contacting the public, communicate to the stakeholders through writing and inviting them for meetings and requesting submissions of documents and memoranda. They do that because it's very automated.
Yes.
They have interns for that. And meetings, to hold meetings to get views, including field visits. That's where the problem is.
Exactly.
And that's the most crucial part.
And the thing that I'll even add to like the public participation process, I'll give an instance of how the finance bill is. By the way, send your online submissions for the finance bill 2025 by close of day tomorrow. By 5 p.m. you should have sent your submissions. The thing that really threw me off is the bill is stated exactly as is. There's no interpretation. There's no one to help people walk through the legalese. Because those bills are written like...
They're such a hard thing to crack.
Yeah.
Very hard to understand.
A lot of us don't have like some kind of mind dictionary. Like you're reading something and you're like, okay, if this is the bill and it says delete paragraph something of this
you have to find
act
that
of this 470, you're like, okay.
You have to find that act, download it, and then go to that paragraph that is being deleted.
They've not even attached like a clickable link where when it says this is the amendment that's being done, you click the amendment, it's highlighted the part that's being amended. This is something so easy. And if we're pushing for bills that are crafting what the future of this nation is looking like, why are the people who it's directly affecting not able to even interpret the bill?
The document.
And right now, they actually did like a really good thing where you can scan to do your public submission online, but if the language is still a barrier, it's like we hate you people and we're sorry. And
you see, in a working country, instead of the government spokesperson defending the movement of the public seal within government, he should be breaking these things down for people.
Yes.
He should be the one doing that.
Oh, the government spokesman is supposed to do that. He doesn't even know where the public seal is supposed to be. He's gallivanting, making sunscreen jokes. And I'm like, no, that's our job. Like, we're the ones who are supposed to be trolling.
Wow.
No, it's true. He was making a lot of jokes about how he was trying to counter the banter that people have online. And I'm like, no, we're in crisis.
Yeah,
we're in crisis because the public seal has been moved from the office of the Attorney General, that's where it's constitutionally mandated, and it's been moved to somewhere that's it's not supposed to be. It went to the Office of Public Service.
Yes.
And in collaboration with the and I'm like, why is the president holding the public seal?
Yes.
In a proper this is as close to treasonous as possible.
And you remember that the seal, for those who don't know what the seal is,
yes,
it's the big device that you see upon swearing in being used to stamp the document before those instruments of power handed over to the next president.
Yes.
That seal is used to use the same word, seal a lot of government pronouncements and deals.
And also just to authenticate a lot of government documents so that you know it's real.
Yes, just like a stamp in offices, right?
Yes, it's a very important stamp. And if that stamp can just be, you know, it can go on tour from one office to another. What's to say it's not being used illegally? Yeah, the stamp should not be exactly.
Shouldn't be on a world tour.
Yeah,
exactly. But Justine, to go back to the point about East Africa,
yes,
I really love it if everyone who's watching, if they're going to take one thing out of this episode, be that Kenya isn't that different from Uganda and Tanzania.
Yeah. We are one, but in the wrong way.
Exactly. We like to think that Kenya is freer. Kenya is, well, in essence, it is freer. Kenya is a more open society compared to these now.
Yes.
But those things that you've mentioned, the murder of a Chadema official and him his body being discovered after being abducted from a public bus, later found dipped in acid and with torture marks. The same thing that we saw in Meru County when Sniper was arrested.
Yes.
The satirical blogger.
Yes.
That case still is in court. But the shooting of a member of parliament will be solved within a week. But that's another discussion. In Uganda, disappearances of also political opponents of Museveni.
Yes, and they're even trying Besigye in military court. They've changed the law so that civilians can be tried in military court.
That's worth mentioning as well. Now, to go back to the exact same thing that you've mentioned, the use of the parliaments, because they have a monopoly of numbers there.
Yeah.
The parliaments being used to pass punitive laws. We saw that in the anti-demonstration law that was almost going through parliament here.
Yes, the anti-demonstrations bill, and the person who actually sponsored that bill was given a CS position.
That part. And then in Uganda, you see the NGO thing that you mentioned, the NGO autonomy being the NGO board autonomy being challenged over there. I'm throwing those words around, might be named differently there. In Tanzania, you see the same...
NGO, maybe that's how it's said in Tanzania.
With the accent.
Yeah.
In Tanzania, the same thing, the laws being pushed around to make space for autocracy. In Kenya, you can't even protest outside the parliament because you'll be arrested and probably disappeared and never seen before.
This is crazy.
The same thing you'll see in Tanzania, the same thing you'll see in Uganda. People don't have freedom to assemble. In Tanzania as well, lastly, disappearances. 4 officials were disappeared of Chadema, never to be seen again. We have 2 gentlemen that are missing from Lolongo that have never been found since December.
Yes, because like every other week we are sharing posters, their families are still trying to find them. It's very heartbreaking.
Yeah, and in Uganda the same thing happens. The courts don't follow up because they have the president has them on the palm of his hands.
Yes.
These things are happening across these countries, and as much as we see that you can walk outside Nairobi and you can tweet something that's even that is being challenged in this country right now. So we're not that different if you're being honest.
Yeah.
Kenya, Uganda, Tanzania, to add even Ethiopia because it lives under the same type of autocracy, we are not that different. The silence that we give these politicians when they say these things every Sunday on podiums, that silence can translate into your rights being infringed.
Yes.
In a month.
So you're saying for Uganda, Tanzania, Kenya, and even Ethiopia, they're just like us.
They're just like us. We are not. We are not doing not like us here.
Yeah,
we are just like them.
The funniest. This is like a human centipede of atrocities.
It is.
Like we're sharing the worst parts possible, and comparatively with other regional blocs, we've seen a lot of people supporting each other in trade, showing up for each other. Like Southern African countries, shout out to you. Maybe you're not on the equator and you experience really cold weather, all these extremes. Maybe that's what's helping you. You know what it feels like to be left out of the sun.
Yeah.
We have the sun all year round and we can't even utilize it properly to like come together and do important work. And I think this is also happening in West Africa, where we've seen a lot of the blocs either coming together to kind of shift the way they operate or go the other way, like Nigeria, where their president is like a freelancer. He lives in Europe, he's chilling, he's old and doesn't know where he is. Yeah, and he's like so happy about it. And I saw a discussion online where I think they were South Africans and Nigerians were bantering each other. And South Africans were like, you're talking to us about good presidency. Where is your president? Do you even know if he's a clone or not? And I was like, okay, yeah, that's a good one. That's a good one.
Clone conspiracy theories. To
yes,
be fair.
He could be. But like, are they gonna make like an African president clone first, or are they gonna make like a Trump clone first?
Who cloned Bola?
That's a good film.
That's a good film, though. Yeah. but just to move quickly to the next topic here. But still, it's a subtopic within the topic of autocracy in East Africa. Agatha's testimony of her torture was heartbreaking.
Very heartbreaking.
Very, very heartbreaking. And it connects back to what we spoke about last week when we had the MSF head of operations here, and he spoke about women and children, and specifically torture and rape as an instrument
Political
of war
tool. Yeah.
and a political tool. If you saw Hussein Khalid, was it Hussein or Boniface Mwangi when they Boniface, when he spoke about what he had the men who had abducted both of them say, and they spoke of it's such a crude thing to even say. I know it would be offensive for Agatha to hear me say this, but it was such a humiliating thing to say to a mother. And I just watched a video of a Tanzanian official doubling down on that comment, this time aiming it at Martha Karua, saying that Martha Karua should come back to Kenya, and when he goes back there, they should. This is very offensive to even say, but it all boils down to rape and sexual assault in the most humiliating and dehumanizing way, being used on women to silence them.
First of all, what happened to Agatha is extremely tragic and extremely shameful that a president, I'm not going to do the woman thing, but a president to be even part of and not have any consequences for the officers involved.
Yeah.
Regardless of the political disagreement, the East African region right now is in turmoil.
It is.
And again, I'll bring this up because in the DRC, a couple of months back, men prisoners, I think, who broke out of the prison went into the women's prison and raped those women. When you look at the patterns of violence, it doesn't usually matter where you stand in the grand realm of things. A lot of women are already vulnerable by virtue of being women, because the systems around us are not, the first instinct is not to protect.
Yeah.
It's like, I can do anything, because a lot of these women either are in very vulnerable positions, they cannot fight back, and that power is wielded against them again and again and again, politically, in social situations, and it gets to a point where if the president of a country can stand by when something so heinous happens, and we sit in committees where we're like, we want to protect women and girls, we want to protect children.
Task forces.
Who is going to trust you with that mandate?
Yeah.
Because you've shown in moments where there's need for this to happen, to hold the line for the protection of citizens, whether it's your own citizens or the citizens from outside, you're not doing it.
Yes.
So how are we supposed to move from one point to another? And it boils into a breakdown in law, and also just human rights,
basic human
decency and rights, where you're actually supposed to be protected, not by virtue of being a man or a woman, but because you're a human being. And rape as a political tool is not just used against women only. It's also used on men. Because if you're like, oh, this is okay to happen to this person because they're a woman and they were too forward and they were, what makes you think it's not going to happen to you?
Yeah. And Bruce is a good example of sexual violence being used against men.
And there's so many other people whose stories probably won't even make the news.
Yes.
But these people have experienced the brunt of power being yielded in the wrong way.
Yeah.
So for President Suluhu's government to be very callous in this way, it speaks to a larger problem we have, considering that ghost worker, what's his name? The Prime Cabinet Secretary. Yes, like that person doesn't even have like a real job.
Worker.
Yeah, he doesn't have a real job, and he got on TV and said, oh, we're not going to do anything about this. Actually, we're congratulating Tanzania's president for teaching these activists a lesson.
Such a humiliating thing.
That is very, you cannot have a foreign policy that is built on your own personal prejudices
and political affiliations.
Yes,
and your
you
political
have to
opinions.
hold the line for your citizens,
Yes.
whether you agree with them or not.
Yeah.
We are not your kids. We are citizens of a country. We are
don't think they
tax-paying
understand
citizens
that.
of a country. We have a constitution. You have a job. Even if your job is non-existent, you can't just get on TV and hold the line in foreign policy for something so heinous. Because if it happens to one person and you're okay, it will happen to you
the
too.
next.
It will happen to you too.
And to you too.
Yeah, because if any Kenyan, and I'm not talking about activists, if any Kenyan were to walk into Tanzania and they don't toe the line and they are either abducted or raped
or disappeared,
you are saying that's okay. And it isn't.
It isn't.
It really isn't.
It really isn't. Because not only him, but the former defense minister also spoke of Kenyans respecting politicians. Remember that he quoted his religion and said that in our religion we believe that, in Islam he said, we believe that all leaders, whether political, religious, should be respected under all conditions.
But are
no questions asked.
No.
So to me, when I heard that statement, the first thing that rang in my head was, why should I respect you when you killed my brother? Why should I respect you when you don't defend my mother?
Truly.
And why should I respect you, most of all, when you steal food from my mouth every day you are alive? Your career is basically, as a politician, to steal food from my table week in, week out. And tell me nothing about it and kill me when I speak up about it. That's not someone you respect, Justine.
That's true.
That's not someone you respect. And it's the same narrative that you hear across board. That's what Samia said when she's killing her people. That's to say also, it's also very important to mention that this is the same politician who allegedly protected and is jailing a man whose life was almost ended by the state, allegedly, in Tanzania, Tundu Lissu. He survived as an assassination attempt. And this is the same man she's jailing for requesting basic constitutional rights. Free elections, fair elections, and everyone to be allowed to speak up and stand for elections.
Yes.
And for ministers and people who will brief for this government to get on podiums and defend these actions and defend autocracy in another country against people just because they don't like them. Like is a very good word, because that's exactly what it is. Because Boniface Mwangi doesn't pose a threat to the life of Musalia Mudavadi.
He really doesn't.
He doesn't. He's a normal citizen. If anything, Musalia Mudavadi holds a lot more power than Boniface Mwangi.
Absolutely.
So for him to defend the possible disappearance and murder and jailing of Boniface Mwangi for trumped up charges in a different country when he's foreign minister is very troubling. But we live in Kenya and it's 2025.
No, we'll just have to, we can't, regardless of what it looks like right now, we have to keep holding the line for the right thing.
We need to.
It's the only way.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter our personal feelings, our personal emotions.
Yeah.
Regardless of whatever is happening, the bleakness around it.
Yes.
We have to hold the line for the right thing. Because when time comes, you don't want to be the person who's like, oh, I was on the wrong side of history, but now I've jumped ship. Like, you can't do that.
Or I wish I spoke up.
Yes. Don't wish. Do it. Do it right now.
Do it now. Now is your chance. Speaking of holding the line, we have an opportunity to speak up against this bill, the Finance Bill 2025. Justine, you've done a lot more research than I have on this, right?
Yeah.
Deadline is tomorrow. We have, what, less than 24 hours? Because it ends at 5 p.m. tomorrow?
The countdown is on. So if you know how to read a bill really fast, I don't advocate for people using AI, but if you can put that into ChatGPT and help it break it down for you so that the clauses can actually align with what parts are being deleted and what parts are being added, please do that. Do all the work you need to. Don't just say you don't support or you support without reading the bill, because I think regardless of where you stand on this particular bill, you need to understand what these policies are going to do if they are passed.
Absolutely.
Yes.
Absolutely. Now, the government clearly isn't doing their job. So let's just do the assignment for them, Justine.
Of course. I'm going to try and break down a few of the clauses that are in the finance bill that I found very problematic. The first one is the removal of data protection rights. So the bill, as it stands right now, proposes a deletion of Section 59A of the Tax Procedures Act. That particular section talks about the commissioner shall not, must, you guys remember?
May.
Yes, shall not require any company or any entity to give out trade secrets or personal and private information.
Even customer data.
Even customer data. So you are protected in whatever way by the Tax Procedures Act in that way. A deletion of this clause actually goes against the Data Protections Act.
It does.
And secondly, it exposes you a lot because a lot of businesses have their ways of operating, and if the commissioner can just like use your trade secrets, however, that's disrespectful to you and your business. Secondly, if your personal data is shared, what's to stop them from trading it? Because data is very big business right now. They could sell your data to anyone. You guys thought WorldCoin was a problem. Wait until KRA can just have your data. And if it leaks, because we've seen situations where big data has leaked.
Yes.
Someone has hacked into a government citizen.
Best example is the BRS business registration system.
Yes.
That was hacked, and every data imaginable was on sale on the dark web.
Yes. So and you've seen how Kenyan government websites look like. They look like someone was in the middle of coding and then they forgot.
Like that's how or something.
Yeah, it looks like an abandoned coding exercise.
Or an intern's kind of work, like a beginner's.
Yes, it's amateur hour. So if we're going to have any kinds of data protection, we have to vehemently oppose any kind of data being shared in this way.
Yeah.
Secondly, another clause I found really problematic was, give me 1 second. There's a clause about, so big businesses that are investing 3 billion and up are allowed to have pay less tax rates for the first 10 years and then less tax rates for even another 10 years after that. So you pay, I think, 10% tax rate for the first 10 years and then 15% tax rate for the 15 to 20% tax rate, if I'm not wrong, for another 10 years after that. So that's a cumulative 20 years.
Yeah.
3 billion shillings is a lot of money. That's not just like easy money. Oh, it's like it's like 1.5 days of like government stealing. Like that's just easy. You know, the 2 billion that they lose a day, that's someone can collect 3 billion easily like that. But for regular Kenyan people who have raise money,
not you.
Yeah, the poor, I'm sorry, but you're not even in this conversation. So regular Kenyan businesses pay a tax rate of 30%.
Yes.
That's extremely high. And we've seen a lot of businesses have shut down because of the high taxes that people are paying right now.
The economy is shrinking, in fact.
Yes. There's a lot of minimum top-up tax. There's a lot of all these different taxes that people are not able to actually pay.
Yeah.
So businesses have shut down, which means a lot of people are either looking for employment or kind of substituting their income by taking loans and all these different things.
Yes.
So if this is the law, if the finance bill passes and is assented to, it means that the poor, you can't have businesses. You really can't operate in this country. It's going to become extremely difficult for you. But big businesses, hey, it's a good time, you know.
And it's also a good time to earn per diems.
Yes, it's also, yes. And additionally, there's also a different clause that kind of in this very, I think it's is it the VAT Act? I think the amendment to the VAT Act that also is pushing for a lot of these big businesses to have all their, at least 70% of their senior management to be Kenyans. That's good. It's a really, really good thing for earnings. It's a really good thing for skill sharing, upskilling people.
Kenyans.
But the caveat is, how many situations have we seen where big businesses, their hiring practices are a little skeevy. People have to be on board with nepotism, tribalism, all these different things, even if they're foreign companies. So if 70% of senior management is going to be Kenyans, is it merit hiring? What's the protection around that? And I know every company is different, and it's like, oh, we love people and we take the best people. It's still a problem. And also, a lot of the money that these companies make still goes back to their countries.
It does. It does.
It doesn't circulate in the Kenyan economy as much. So if Kenyans are going to be making money for outside countries, what is 70% of their senior management going to do? They're not going to stop it. So we really have to figure a way that protects the money that runs into the economy.
Pockets of Kenyans.
Yes.
Kenyans.
And then the last clause, I'm forgetting this other one.
I think while you remember that, I just got some clarity on the tax-free per diem thing.
Yes.
And apparently they're trying to raise the threshold of tax-free per diem from 2,000 shillings to 10,000 per day. Now, do you know who earns per diems mostly in this country? Who's, first of all, the biggest employer in Kenya? It's the government.
It's the government.
Who earns per diems?
Mostly government officials.
I might be factually incorrect on the who's the biggest employer in Kenya.
Yeah, we don't know that.
We don't know that. I know the informal sector hires a lot more people than the formal sector.
Yes.
But I believe government is one of the biggest employers in Kenya. And government literally runs on the pockets of Kenyans buying milk every day and buying oil every day.
Yes.
It's the basic things. And this money ends up, every meeting that you see on television, inside Kenya, outside Kenya, there's someone earning per diems on that. Even that committee that you spoke of, the task force on femicide, they're earning per diems. Now, if you increase the limit from 2,000 to 10,000 per day, most of the people who are going to earn from this are going to be politicians or people in government, which you can't say is a good thing.
No.
But if you're looking, you can't say it's a good thing because the regular Kenyans work in government.
Yes.
Regular Kenyans work in government. We probably have family which works in government. But this smells to me like just another anti-people, pro-politicians law.
Yes.
That is trying to get snuck into these bills.
Of course. Of course, they're always going to try and make money off of us. It's their whole
it's the whole
scheme.
JD.
Yeah. the last one that I was forgetting was an amendment to what the description of a digital lender is.
Yes, there is that.
And this will round back to the App Trapped documentary that was
Cynthia.
done.
Yes.
So digital lenders, as it stands now, it's a lot of the people who give you money online. They are expanding digital lender to include microfinance institutions like those two little Shylocks that are in your neighborhood and also SACCOs. If you look at a lot of the Shylocks and a lot of the SACCOs, they actually serve, for lack of a better word, the poors, the us. Because a lot of formal financial institutions do not serve regular people. When it comes to handing them money, you have to present documents, read your rights, come with a cop who will probably abduct you at the end of the day. Like, there's so many procedures before they give you money. But when it comes to digital lenders and like microfinance institutions, the hurdles are less. So expanding this means the rate at which you borrow any kind of money from these apps goes up. It's too much for a lot of poor people, because if you consider the rate at which you're going to be paying back, it's also going to be higher. So if they increase that, it means you get less credit, because a lot of the money you'll be getting will be going back into paying the loan that you just took. And right now, a lot of Kenyans are not taking money so that they can build things. A lot of people are taking money for survival. They're taking money so they can pay fees, so they can buy food, so they can pay rent, so they can do shopping. It's a very difficult situation that a lot of Kenyans are in. So adding more taxes or like expanding what a digital lender is so that they can pay more, so that to the people who they are lending is going to hurt so many families.
It is.
And this is going to trap more people in debt. It's going to become very difficult for people to get out of debt in the future.
Because everything goes up.
Yes. And the worst that could happen, remember, if you're taking money to pay fees for your kids, the government has been like, you people are rich. We're not paying for exams anymore. Soon it's going to be like, we're not going to pay for school anymore. I want us to remember that the capitation for second term was released, albeit late, like literally it's a month late. And there's a school in Nyanza that was given 87 shillings.
Yeah.
There's another school that was given 4,000 shillings. And those are the only ones we've heard about. There are probably schools that didn't even receive capitation. Like there are principals out here speaking to vendors and being like, please, nipe tu maragwe. I will return the money as soon as I can. And that's between now and never. It's a very dire situation for a lot of schools, and this affects learning. The school lunch program is being defunded. So there's so many issues with how
money is being used
in this government and how that affects you.
People.
So if the government is playing into your reach for a poor person, it's going to end up very tragically in a few years when no one can afford anything.
Yes.
And the only way to get money is if you're into stealing. If you're like a really big kleptomaniac, then you're good. It's a very very bad situation.
It is. And that's the same reason that was used to scrap university funding.
Yes.
And introduce the university funding model, the new funding model.
Yes.
I remember the same thing that is being said right now, because to quote the current Treasury CS, he said, if you're paying $1 million per term for your child to go to school, 5,000 is nothing to you.
Because you have to remember, and ironically, it's not about the $1 million shillings. They've defunded public schools.
Yes.
The reason private schools are thriving is because public schools have like one teacher per 100 children. Yes. What kind of magical teacher is that? They're going to be tired, and they're not going to impact the child's life in any.
And now it's much better to move your child to the international system than it is to keep them in the Kenyan school learning how Kenyan learners are supposed to learn.
Yeah, because like CBC doesn't even have like a curriculum for the rest of the grades. They're like, oh, even us we don't know. And I'm like, no, you're the curriculum setters. You
gambling.
Yeah, you're gambling
with future.
Yeah.
It's gambling with kids' future. It's really troubling. But Justine, we've spent enough time speaking about this.
Yeah.
It will be very remiss of us if we don't speak about the documentary that was released, Vanishing Kids of Mukuru. It's just the basic way of doing business for any government. Protect people. They're failing in all avenues.
Yes.
If it's protecting regular Kenyans, an MP was literally abducted and found tortured in a coffee farm.
Yes.
If it's about people being killed, we've seen people being murdered by allegedly unknown people. And the case of, where did that murder happen? Was it in Nakuru, where the activist was murdered?
I think
you remember that case?
Yes.
It was in Nakuru?
Yes.
The activist was murdered and it was in Molo. Yes, I'm just getting some clarification here.
Yeah.
Yes, it was in Molo where the activist was murdered, and nothing was done about it.
Yes.
Nothing. Do you feel safe walking? Because I don't feel safe. I feel as if every day on the news there's something crazy happening in Kenya and somebody's dead. Every single day. You're either killed by a police officer or you're killed by people, and no one will give a hoot about what happened to you.
Yes.
A foreigner was knocked down on Gong Road by the president's motorcade.
Yes.
That case, people moved on. It's like that thing didn't even happen in this country. And that's one of the problems that I have with Kenya. Perhaps it's something to do with our psyche. We tend to move on a bit too much.
I think a lot of people are not moving on. I think a lot of people are. There's a defining term of this particular way in which people operate. It's called collective helplessness.
Collective helplessness.
Where so many things are happening that are so tragic that you feel like you cannot control any of the situations in which you're in or any of the things you've seen.
Yeah.
And then after some time, you just feel like this is how things are.
Yeah.
And you don't move on essentially, but you find a way to forget so that you don't go crazy.
Yes.
And collective helplessness is very useless in situations where a lot of us have to fight back. The reason the human rights issue, like what Bonnie and Agatha face, and a pedestrian getting knocked down by the presidential motorcade, or an MP giving poisonous sugar via the NGCDF to a lot of to 30 schools. Like all these different situations are all tied together. There's a carelessness, there's a recklessness in which the government is operating at. There's no consequences, and Kenyans feel like they don't know what to do. Because whenever you speak up, you're either abducted, you get shot, you get disappeared. and then your family becomes like, okay, we don't want that to happen to you. But we can only stay silent for so long. A lot of us can just be like, shh, wanatukujia. That can't be our response. The more we speak up, the more we understand that these issues is not normal. You shouldn't be living in fright every single day. You should be free. You should have a kind of life where you feel protected and safe.
I mean, Justine, look, I'm writing down the names of people who are murdered or cases of murders in Kenya over the past year. There's Rita Waeni, there's Sniper, there's the Molo activist, there's the pedestrian along Gong Road. There's 62 people, at least 62 people who were murdered. And there's Starlet Wahoo, and the list goes on and on and on and on. And a lot of these murders, they're not solved yet. The killers haven't been found. Nothing has been done about them. They're just grinding slowly in the court system. I don't feel safe being in Kenya right now. And that's because not only am I dodging people trying to rob me on the streets, but I could die because the government isn't doing its job and the government wants to kill me. For merely just doing this job that we're doing right now. We could walk out there and disappear. And we'll end up in headlines, and probably the US Secretary of State will get on a stage and condemn it and order investigations. And in 2 weeks, the country moves on. More people are killed, more people are abducted, more kids get lost in Mukuru kwa Njenga, and many more places in Kenya. And God knows to where. It could be child trafficking. It could be organ trafficking, because we've heard of that. And it's happening. It could be the worst thing, which is a child being abused, because that's also something that we've seen here. The accused person literally just died 2 days ago, was it? The white man who was arrested for that in Kenya.
And they were about to release him, or like he was released before something.
Exactly, and the case kept grinding on and on and on, and no solution, no justice was ever found for these people. It's the same thing every day, nothing happens. And I believe it is what you're saying. People just, you try every day to latch onto something that you feel you can make noise about so it can change, but then in essence, you feel, when you go back home, you feel really helpless. Because even the act of speaking up about these things and raising your voice against this inefficiency by the government could get you killed. And once you're killed, the country moves on the same way they moved on when those people you're advocating for were murdered by the state. We could speak about this for so long, Justine. But finally, I don't know kama mwana zile viti ziko Raila Odinga Stadium manze. Yeah, I know. Kuna mtu ana budget ya hizo zinaenda para Sunday school next week.
I think also, what is like the chair tender in this country like? Like it feels like people are making so much money on chair tenders. It's like if you have like the red, black, white and green, you're set for life. You can just like send those chairs anywhere.
It looks like all cute from
the president
distance,
is coming.
Right?
Yes, it looks very cute, but like, bro,
does.
I don't know if Kenyans will ever get to have a good stadium experience where the chair does not move with you into the stadium where people are playing. It just feels very unsafe. Like, what is the point of having, quote unquote, a world-class stadium? We're having a situation where Wote in the mud, Wote has just been crying, can you guys just build me?
I'm here, guys. You guys are building Talanta.
Choose
I'm here
me,
for a while.
Love me. Like, that has been Wote's situation the entire time. And like, what the person who said they were going to build Wote Stadium in 6 months' time moved on to bigger stadiums to let down. It's so tragic that even CAF has said,
we don't have any stadiums.
They're like, the Kasarani is not ready, Talanta is not ready, we're moving on. You can't be...
The workers at Talanta down their tools some weeks ago.
Yes, actually it was like last week, but when they were like, we're not getting paid.
Shortly after the president visited.
Yes. And I'm like, bro, I know your whole idea is just building like an affordable housing wherever it is, but that's not anything. You actually have to do the work where the people who are working are compensated. The work that is planned to be done is
actually done.
Because if none of that work is done, you have no legacy. I don't know if the legacy is to leave a bunch of movable chairs in, like, maybe that's like the plan, to have just like really things that photograph really well, but they don't have stay.
They don't have any gravity to them. There's nothing important to them. I'm just looking at the year, and he promised, funny, Raila Odinga Stadium in Homa Bay begins, and there's a promise of 500 million to be allocated to the project. This was in March this year.
How much did they allocate?
I'm yet to, I'll have to do research on that, how much exactly was allocated. But Ruto said, from what I'm reading here in December 2024, that the government is to allocate 500 million shillings as he unveiled plans to overhaul the Raila Odinga Stadium in Homa Bay County for next year's Mashuja's celebrations. Isn't that June 1st? Is that June 1st? Yeah, it should be June 1st. Yeah. So in how long? In a week?
They're going to give them 500 million in a week.
Yeah, if no, that's Madaraka Day, guys. That's Madaraka Day. But for Mashujaa Day is in October 20th.
Yeah. Check me not knowing where Mashujaa Day is. Because there's no Shujaas left. It's just Kenyans fighting for their lives, man.
The only Shujaas left are probably being hounded by the government or dead.
The only Shujaas left are us.
Yeah.
Everyone who's still speaking out for the right thing, you're a Shujaa. Shout out to you.
And yeah, 500 million to this. This comes off the back of, famously, we know we covered that, Karatu Stadium. And the gentleman who got the tender to do Karatu Stadium and did nothing about it is now presidential advisor after serving two positions in the cabinet.
I think it's, I think presidential advisor is probably code for something. It's like, let me protect my fellow incompetents. Maybe that's what a presidential advisor is.
Yeah, it's probably him keeping them on a leash.
Yes.
You never know.
Because, like, why are you guys not doing any jobs? That's crazy.
Like, is very
if
similar.
I didn't do anything today, I would be very worried about the state of my mental health. I don't know how you guys are just cruising by doing nothing and also earning. Oh, that's what theft is.
Yeah, they tweet. They tweet, though. They tweet. Two advisors are very active on Twitter, to be honest.
Oh, they tweet.
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah. They use that to 100,000 for airtime really well.
I tweet too, but I'm not getting paid for my tweets. That's so crazy.
And you actually tweet things of substance.
Yes. This
Shout
hurts me. Maybe if I start tweeting stupid shit, like, I'll actually get...
Maybe you'll get an advisor position.
Yeah.
But that should be it, Justine. We've run out of time. We actually over time, maybe 3 minutes here. Yeah. Do you have anything else you want to close with?
I think my thing would be, again, I'll just tell Kenyans out there, stand for the right thing. And one of the things I wrote down when we were having the conversation in the beginning is, we can't be a country that's, or we can't be a series of neighboring countries that are just atrocity per country sharing. We can't be those people. We have to ask the questions of what we want our countries to look like. And there's nothing wrong with that. It can be very difficult, even kama hatuelewani kwa Kiswahili. Like, it could be very difficult. I don't know why I did that. That's very kind of sus. But I'm very curious to know what the dream Tanzania looks like for Tanzanians there, or if they've gotten to that destination and us tunawaribia starehe. And I would like to know what Ugandans want their country to look like, or if that's it. Are Kenyans satisfied with where we are at? I don't think so. And it's good to dream. It's good to dream of a country where your rights are respected, but also not advocating for someone else to be tortured just because you don't like them. Yeah. If they have to be arrested and arraigned, like, that's the proper procedure. That's maybe the thing you should wish for them, but not for them to be harmed for you to feel, yeah, we're doing a good job. Like, that's not the dream we should have for ourselves. We should we should care about people. We should care about each other, even if we don't like each other. Yeah. That's the thing we should go with. Regardless of the circumstances, we should try and do the right thing by each other again and again and again, because that's how you build a functioning country and hopefully a functioning economy. Yeah.
You touched on something that I really wanted to touch on. I know that a lot of people in Kenya, Tanzania, and Uganda, most of them right now, if you're being honest, are afraid of speaking up. You are afraid of speaking up. I know, Justine, you're brave, you speak your mind, but every day you step in a taxi, you've mentioned it a number of times, you're scared that something is going to happen to you. So I don't blame you for being silent. I'd want to say that. I don't blame you for being silent. But I think to give up and to capitulate and to sort of surrender is to to not dream, it's the easy thing to do. But speaking up is to dream. Speaking up is wishing a better future for yourself, where you can speak up about somebody that's stealing your money that you earned through your hard sweat. That's dreaming. That's dreaming to me. Yes. That's if doing your job like I do as a journalist to tell the stories that matter, if it's doing your job as a teacher to teach students and make noise about capitation that has been in the offing for months, if your job is to stand up for people in the courts, do it pro bono, like all the lawyers that we've had here, represent people who stand up for something. If your job is to it's almost like what Martin Luther King said, if you're a street sweeper, sweep that street so clean that somebody comes and asks who swept this street. Do your job and do more and speak up for your country. Dream. Just dream. I mean, we live in a country which dares to kill you for speaking up. But what happened to Agatha should never happen to anyone. What happened to Boni shouldn't happen to anyone. The things that Agatha's kids are going to watch on TV about their mom, it's very humiliating. As much as we see it as brave, it's dehumanizing. Speak up about the things that matter to you and just dare to dream, because you'll die if you don't. And I think that's where we close the show. But Justine, before we close it,
Can I just say something before you close it? I forgot to tell you this earlier. The finance bill also comes with the proposed budget. Kindly look at how much money is going to the president and all those different offices, especially in the executive, versus how much money is going into education and evolution, because that's where your money is supposed to go.
Yes.
Please make sure you check the budget too, because if they can give 87 bob to students for the whole term, I don't know what devolution you guys are waiting for.
And cancel school feeding programs. And add more money for innovation, because apparently the president's office can look filthy.
Oh my God.
Let me just,
watching in your
you can say it. Just get it off your chest.
I'm just saying, like, if we are out here, and we're going to be asking what money, where is the deputy president getting that money? I'll give a story of I think yesterday on one of the TV stations, if I'm not wrong, it's on Citizen, there was an MP or a government representative, I don't remember who it was. They were holding the line for the deputy president, being like, but he's giving uniforms for kids of boda guys. See, that's a good thing, guys. And the presenter was obviously like, but there's no capitation for schools. Are you saying like this is what the deputy president is supposed to be doing? And it's like, no, don't ask where the deputy president's money is coming from. and I'm like, no, where is it coming from? What successful business venture is this, and can we all get in on it so that we can prosper and give people uniforms? Because I think I want to do that business.
You want to do that job, Politics is a sure-paying job here in Kenya. You
truly
immediately turn to become a successful businessman if you earn billions through politics. But Justine, we could say much about this. There's a lot of things you can speak about Kenya with so much emotion saying to me, because we care about it. But to close the show, we're not going to close it with the usual sign out, I'm Tom, she's Justine. We're going to run the trailer of The Vanishing Kids of Mukuru one more time, just so you can go and watch it. Spare time to watch it, because it could happen to you. Because, Kenya is Kenya what it is right now. And a lot of issues go into this. Police inefficiency in finding these children, and God knows what happens to these kids. So go watch the documentary. From Justine and I, cheers, good night, thanks for watching.
Na familia kwa nyumba hakuna raha. Mnaweza kuwa raha aje mkiingia na yule mtoto anakwanga na space yake ya kuparticipate, na hiyo space yake ya kuparticipate hakuna.
Chantal ndio aliweza kupotea na alipotelea tu hapa kwa hii mlango akicheza hapa na mwenzake. Aliitwa na mama.
Good Samaritan hapa ameniambia kuja tuende nikupaye yako. Waachie hiyo. Mtoto anachakata.
Lakini hiyo masaa ya saa 11, saa 12 kuangalia watoto wengine wanarudi, yeye hakuonekana.
You have punishments for the offense of trafficking that prescribe a jail term. But then they also give the option to pay a fine. When someone has that much money available, paying a fine is not a problem.
Sio ni mada kesi. Yaani ukichua mtoto yangu uende naye hiyo muda yote. Si ni sawa na kuwa.
Back then, lending was very strict. With time, we have seen access to credit made easy.
Professor, is the
back then, lending was very strict. With time, we have seen access to credit made easy.
Professor, is the way to go, guys.
Zenka Loan App.
Technology has brought us money close to us.
Juu ni easy to access, haihitaji guarantor.
Zile terms zinakuja ni pages mingi. Utascroll tu mbio, uklik agree and continue.
Unapewa wiki 2 ya kurudisha au kuongeza muda.
After 5 second message nyingine, after 10 minutes message zilikuwa zinafanya mtu anakuwa uncomfortable.
Sasa hivi unapigiwa hata unaweza receive. Nataka nikuweke mahali hata uwezi chukua simu ina hangi ilipuke.
Sasa umejua ukiwa na mtandio, wakati ule walikuona umejivaa tu kawaida, ukiwa na mtandio hawezi jua ni wewe.